Hello and welcome back to Box of Delight. In this video I want to show you the Lord of the Ice Garden. I've got a copy of the first edition. We got a second edition which is coming on Kickstarter now. It's the same game, they're just re-kickstarting. And there's a few videos already out there that show you how to play the game. It's a competitive 2 to 4 player, 90 to 150 minutes, it says on the box, 14 plus. It's interesting to me because it combines some well-known mechanics in a kind of new way. It's got some great miniatures, but it's worker placement and area control. And there's some direct conflict and so on in those types of area control games. You'll see them, and you've got individual players with player powers, and so it's kind of that thematic worker placement, which is always going to be of interest. But additionally, the developers, so this isn't a homebrewed one, but the developers have been working on a solitaire variant, and that's what I wanted to demo for you today. This one's kind of got a Norse mystical setting. We're in this world called Midgard. There's a series of, this is Polish design I think, and there's a series of books on the Lord of the Ice Garden. I'm not sure that they've translated them into English, so I think we're stuck with the game, but they do have some of the lore and so on in the opening pages. So we have, it tells you a little bit about the different characters, Olaf, Fjolsvin, Ark and Lady of Sorrow, all these different characters. So if you are familiar with the books at all, it's going to make a lot of sense to you. Like all good worker placements, we have areas of the board where you can place your action tokens, and the conflict over action spaces is going to be less of an issue, obviously playing solitaire. These are the different player boards. And the other thing that's interesting about this game is that each player has a different victory condition. And particularly playing multiplayer, that's really interesting because each one of you is not just competing to win in a different way, you're also having to understand how your opponents are trying to win, so that you've got this kind of dual aspect. It's kind of a race, if you like, the racing to get to your victory condition, but at the same time trying to scupper your opponent because you're not going to be on the same paths to victory. You can choose these randomly as well if you wish, because they all have the same back, which makes it helpful. And additionally, each player has its own highly detailed miniatures. So here's the green players, Passionari and Hello. They are pretty highly detailed. These are probably the best miniatures I've seen in a game. I'm not sure what material they've used, but they're cast in this quite hard plastic. It's not that soft plastic that I'm used to seeing. It's like an NPC type character. Some dragons but you've got this kind of Viking Nordic theme going on. And I'm going to use the blue player, I think, just because I like the miniatures. So I'm not going to choose randomly. We're going to use Svolspin. Yes, Fjolsvin. There he is. Olaf Fjolsvin. This is his main character, if you like. This is the volcano people. We've got these ice Drakkar and some tree brothers. There's 3 of these. So we've got 1 of top strength, 2 of medium, and then 3 of lower strength. And then I think we'll go for the Lady of Sorrow as our main opponent. Sound good? So she's the NPC, if you like. Now I've set up the board according to 2-player setup. So we've got setup for me, setup for the NPC. But there's a few parts of the board that we're not going to need in the solitaire variant. Let me just show you those quickly. Down here is what we call the reputation track. In multiplayer games, players' reputations can fall and rise, depending on what types of actions you take. And this can influence the results of decisions and outcomes in the game. We're always assuming that the player loses when compared against the NPC. Okay, so our reputation is permanently worse than the NPC characters, so we don't need these. At the top right of the board here is the score track. We'll keep that one there. And this is the initiative track, and we're going to progress from left to right. We don't need a marker for the NPC. We do need one for us still. And then these I've placed randomly. They recommend you don't use these. These are called the Vuko tiles. We'll come on to what they do. But basically they change up. So as the game progresses and we move along this track, different effects are going to come into play. There's two sides to each one of these. The side without a sword icon and then one with this kind of sword, this forward pointing arrow. If you're having this arrow side, this effect remains for the rest of the game. This one here doesn't have that effect. Okay, the sword is face down, and again it was just determined randomly. And what that means is it's only active while we're sitting in this stage of the game. Okay, so these effects come into play as we move across this track on each of these different helms. I'm going to start here. I'll show you anyway as we get going. And then down in here in the bottom left of the board we have this dead snow. This track's going to go up here, and this is going to act like a timer as well. Okay, and if it reaches the end, we're going to automatically lose. Normally it's a check on your reputation if this reaches the top, but because our reputation is always worse, that's an automatic loss for us. Okay, start down here on 0. As for the rest of the board, we've got this area control going on. These brown cubes, these are neutral control. We've got one in each 6 regions. Because we're playing 2-player, we only use 6 regions. 3-player, it's 7, 8 regions for playing 4-player. So we're going to have these 2 regions out of play. In fact, I'm going to place a couple of miniatures here to remind us of the fact that these 2 are out of play. Alright, those 2 with the green markers. And then we've got these markers here and these here. These are the region scoring tokens. We'll turn these over, and this kind of gives you a nice random setup for each time you play. Different regions will thereby have different values. This is the region number here, number 1. And these are the scoring points here, 5 victory points for the player in dominance, next player 4, and so on down. In this case, none, because we're playing 2-player. And then these icons down the bottom tell you what resources this region produces. We have the green ones. This is like the M. This is called the M factor. It allows you to take some more of the powerful actions. We've got gold, and then this token here is the population token. We'll look at what those do once we get into play. And then we have these tokens here which are face down. These are magical reserves token. We're going to turn them face up, and 2 of them will be blank. These are the places where there are no magical reserves. Here and here. And then we've got some tokens. These small square ones, these are your influence over the regions. Okay, so remember, area control. Worker placement, these are your action pawns. These are the things that signify which actions you're going to take. We're not going to use these for the NPC. We get 2 influence markers for the start of the game. NPC doesn't. So we've got to think about which areas we want to best control. I'm going to go for these 2 here. And the reason I'm doing that is for their resources. So for victory conditions, the red player, when she's built 6 red towers in different regions. Okay, Pierre van Dijken, when he's collected and absorbed 4 magical reserve tokens. Okay, Olaf, that's us, when we have brought 6 influence markers of other players to the Ice Garden. So we're going to be attacking, we're going to be quite aggressive in taking these away from the NPC. And then Fashinara Kayo wins when she's locked 2 regions in her nightmares. Okay, so let's kick off with the initiative phase. Initiative phase is where we get to move our marker. First turn of the game we're not going to do that, so we're going to just skip that step this time. Now we move into the action phase, and this is where we get to place our action markers here on these action fields to determine what we're going to do. Now notice I've got 3 action pawns at the start of the game, and that's because of where my initiative marker is. I'm here on the first helm at point number 1, and there's 3 squares here. I get 3 action tokens. The first one here, this is called Viper's Gorge. Any players, when you're playing multiplayer, any number of players can put actions here, so there's no limit. When you place an action marker here, you get to trade 2 resources for any 1 resource, and you get any 1 resource of any type. Now you can do that. You can do either or, so you can do both of those things or just one of those things. And in fact, for 1 action marker, you can trade as many times as you wish, but you can only take 1, obviously, for 1 action marker. The only other additional thing here is that if you place an action pawn here, an action token here, you have to place an influence token here as well, and that stays there for the rest of the game. So it does reduce your pool of influence taking this action. We're not going to do that. Remember, I've got 3 action tokens. I could put all 3 hidden here, lose 3 influence and take lots of resources. Okay, so you can do that. But what I will do though is I'm going to head off to this second place, and this is the influence action. This time it just costs me an action pawn. It's only here up in Viper Gorge that it costs you influence as well. This next action here, this one allows you to move. And we've got something called the Voracious Mountain. So moving units or moving influence costs gold. For each gold you spend, that's how many influence markers you can move. With the Voracious Mountain, you can move all units from, or all influence from one region to another region, but it's going to cost you population tokens instead. So I'm going to put 1 here, and then I'll put 1 here in the final spot. This is called Making. This one here is called Raven Shadow. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Making is a way of getting these better units out, improving our units. We'll come to that when we resolve it. Okay, so we've done our planning. Let's resolve each one of these one at a time. So, no one in Viper Gorge, influence. Now the thing about the Solitaire variant is that our NPC, instead of planning their own actions out, they're going to be responding based on how we act. So because I've played an action token here, that's going to make the NPC do something in response. So if I go and quick look at these Solitaire rules, in Viper's Gorge they do nothing. Influence, they place 2 influence in the region number rolled. So when we remove a marker from an action box, we're going to roll a 6-sided die. Okay, so that's something new for the Solitaire. If we take the move action, they will place 2 influence. If we take the Voracious Mountain, they'll place 2 influence. Raven Shadow, they'll do nothing. And then Making a variety of AI. So we'll look at that when it comes up. Let's roll our die. And it's a 6. And remember, each one of these regions is numbered now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is what we got. Let's grab 2 influence markers. We'll place them up here in region number 6. And for my part, I get to spend either 1 or 2 of these population tokens. I get 3 for the start of the game, 2 gold, and get 1 of these M factors. I'm going to spend 2 and place 2 influence markers. I can only place them in regions where I've already got influence, so I'm going to place them here. And then, I took the move, didn't I? Yeah, move action says I can assign for 1 gold, 1 movement, for 2 gold, 2 movement. But first let's roll for the NPC. And it's a 2, region number 2 is here. And for my move, I'm going to spend 2 gold, both gold, which means I can move 2 influence markers. I'm going to leave this one. Yeah, I'll move 2, 1, 2. I'll move 2 in here. That 2 gold looks nice. Now we've got our final action, the Making action. Let's do the AI first. The AI first tells us to move the Dead Snow up 2. Alright, so it progresses the game. So Making, although it's the most powerful action, it's going to bring the lose condition closer. And this is also how the NPC gets their higher level units out. And we always start with the highest unit. Whichever collection of highest units is available or not in play, we'll put into play. So the first time we'll put this one in, the level 3 unit. And don't all necessarily go to the same region. Again, we're just going to roll the die. So this one is going on to region number 2. What's good about these units, this is a level 3, and all they do is count for more influence. They do have some specials as well, but we'll come to that. So our NPC's got 2 influence here, but also because this is a level 3, and we know it's level 3 because we count the bases here. 1, 2, 3. This is a level 2, it's only got 2 bases, 1, 2. Alright. That counts as 3 influence, so they've got 5 influence here in this region. Pretty strong, huh? So this making, what does it do that's so powerful? Well, let's have a look. There's 3 things. This first one says, move the Dead Snow token up 1 space, move your reputation down. And it'll move by the number of M factor tokens we spend, but for each M factor token we spend, we'll be summoning special units into play. So that's how we get them in. But what's important is that when we spend the M factor tokens, it depends where they are on this track. So at the moment, we've got 1 M factor token is sitting at the 0 spot. If I wanted to summon a level 1 unit, it needs to be an M factor. We need to spend an M factor token as part of this action from this field here, and that allows us to put one of these guys into play. Yeah? This is the level 1s here. And then here, if we wanted to bring in one of these Drakkar, we'd need an M factor token here, and so on, up the track. Okay? And this is what this second option does. It allows you to move up to 5 spaces around across this track your M factor tokens. So really, you want to be doing the M factor, the making action when you've got more of these M factor tokens in play. So doing it right now is not terribly productive. And then the third and final option is to upgrade your units. And again, we move the Dead Snow up 1, our reputation comes down, we pay a cost. So here's an M factor and a gold, and then we can take one of these upgrades for our special units. And the one I want is Dominance. It's going to cost 1 M factor and 1 population token. And this time the M factor has to come from the 0 spot, so you can't use any here to take this action. So I'm going to take these 2, and I'm going to use that to buy this fist, this Dominate improvement. And what Dominate will do is it'll give all my level 1 units an extra influence, so they'll count for 2 influence each. There's 2 more action fields, number 6 and number 7. So we're going to come down and around, and we're going to do this one next. This one is called Activation. What's important here is that players aren't playing their action tokens here. These 2 steps are automatic. So first, automatic step, players' units will use their special abilities. At the moment there's only 1 special unit on the board, and that's Harasim here, our NPC's most powerful level 3 unit. Harasim is a trained spy and assassin. And their special ability is they get 2 free upgrades, and they can change these each time. But the AI tells us they should always be set to attack and this defensive shield. So given these 2 special abilities, attack and shield, these will activate now in this activation phase. So the first thing it's going to do is attack here, and all you do to resolve an attack is remove either one of my units, my influence, or in this case a neutral influence, and he gets a victory point for doing so. The score marker goes up 1. Before I forget, this needed to go up 1 when I took the making action. Remember I told you if the Dead Snow marker gets up here, we lose. If his score marker gets all the way to the end of 50, then we also lose, and the NPC will win. But conversely, if we manage to push our score marker all up the way to the end, even if we haven't completed our individual objective, then we will win. Alright, so that's another game end condition, either player hitting that end point. And with that activation complete, we move on to the last step 7. And this is the Vuko action, when Vuko Drakkainen comes onto the board and starts attacking us. This is this external character. We're going to skip this step on the first turn, so we're going to come back and see that next time. What I'd like to do now is run you through another turn, show you a little bit more of the game, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Incidentally, our NPC here, Ulrika, she can, once she gets these characters on the board, these units on the board, her special action here is called Pillage. She'll take one of our resources if we are in the same region. But this can only be done in the domination phase. So let's look at the domination phase now and finish off the first turn. In particular for Ulrika, they're level 2 units. These are called the Enlightened ones. If they have dominance in a region, they'll put down one of these towers. So this is how she's going to end the game. Now obviously Ulrika has dominance here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and no other influence in the region. But she doesn't get any resources, she doesn't need those resources. And same for these magical reserves. These give you an additional M factor token. So there isn't any need for the red player to do that. And then finally the victory points. Now the victory points are claimed in a 2-player game, in the 2-player solitaire variant. If you're in this region as well, you don't get the second place dominance, you don't get the 3 points. So red player here will get the 5 points. However, you only do that victory point scoring when we hit one of these red ships. Okay? So you've got to time this influence marker movement up when you want that scoring to occur. In other words, when you've got the most dominance, ideally. Okay? Now let's look at region number 3. I have 1 influence. The neutral players have 1 influence. There's a tie, and in the case of a tie, we look to see who has the most influence in adjacent regions. Unfortunately, he has 1, 2, I only have 1, so he has dominance, the neutral player, so I don't get to claim any of the resources from here. Let's have a look at region number 4. So again, we're tied. I've got 1, 2, 3 in adjacent regions. He's got 1, 2, 3 in adjacent regions. Again, it's a tie. Now we look here, number 5, I do have dominance. And now I can take one of these rewards. I can take 2 gold or 1 population token. I think I'll take the latter. Okay. Number 6, the red player has dominance. But as we said before, they get nothing for dominance. The first thing we do at the start of the round is we move the AI's units. And all we do, unless a special unit's sticking around trying to get dominance to use their special ability, so if we had one of the enlightened ones here, it wouldn't do anything at this point, but what we'll do instead is move. And what we do is we roll the die, and it will move to that region. We've rolled a 2, he's not going to move. If there was a red tower here, because we've already achieved that goal, then we'll just roll again. So we'd move away. He'd move away from places and try to get dominance in regions where he hadn't yet achieved his objective. Alright, let's move into the next turn, and we're going to start off with the initiative phase. And this is where I can choose. Now I can choose to move this either 1 space or 2 spaces. And moving it 1 space is obviously going to give me more time. Moving it 2 spaces means I'm going to get closer to the reds where I can score victories. But I'm obviously moving 2 spaces means he gets less time as well. But moving 2 spaces will also give me 5 action pawns. Moving 1 will give me 4 as it goes. I'm just going to move 1. I'm going to get the additional action pawn from the supply. And notice we're here with this Vuko ability. What this one says for the rest of the game, because of this arrow, when Vuko moves, he's going to move some influence with him. It's the neutral influence, those brown cubes. Next, we take some actions. I definitely want some more resources, so I'm going to go here. And I'm going to get some units out. So we'll use our influence. In fact, I think we'll go back to Viper Gorge and do that again. And again. And I think all I want to do is get the influence going first. So let's Viper Gorge first. We don't roll the die. They do nothing when we do Viper Gorge. Let's take 2 actions off, and I'm going to take each one of those a population marker. Now let's do this action. Now we do roll the die. Region number 6, he places 2, so he's really building this one up. I'm going to spend 1 population marker, place 1 here, roll for the second one. That's a 4. He's placing 2 here, which I'm not happy about, but I'm going to put my 2. I'm going to spend 2 population tokens and put 2 there as well. Now we activate specials. Remember, number 6. He's going to do nothing because there's no one here. Remember, he always attacks and defends. And now we come to Vuko, number 7. We're off the first turn, so that's going to happen. This is Vuko. He's going to come out and attack the player with the least reputation. Now remember, in the solitaire, we're always considered the player with the least reputation. So he's going to come and visit one of these 3 regions. Now the bad news for us is he picks the region with the most influence. So he's going to come into here, region 4. In the event of a tie, he's just going to go to one with the lowest region number. Now what does he do? First, he gives us one of these Vuko tokens, which are bad news. Vuko tokens basically lower your influence in a region where Vuko is. Alright, so now I've only got 2 influence here. Vuko also kills special units. So if I had any special units here, it would kill one. I get to choose which one, but one of my special units dies in defense of the region. So that's Vuko doing his thing. I'll take this Vuko token, because these will accumulate. I can use the Raven Shadow action to get rid of them. And in the solitaire game, that's really all that the Raven Shadow action does. So this influence marker, we'll place it here next to Vuko, and that tells us that he's got influence over our units here. So in terms of dominance now, we've got dominance here at 2 versus 1, and I'm going to grab one of the M factor tokens. We've got dominance here as well as 2 versus 1, and I'm going to grab a population token. But here now there's a tie. We've got 2 influence over 1, so the neutral player's not in it. And then we've got 2 versus 2. There's a tie, so we have to count adjacents. They've got 2 red ones here, plus 3, that's 5. We've got 2 plus 2, only 4 in adjacent regions. So the red player gets dominance. Vuko really spoilt the play for us. And that's pretty much it. This is how things are going to move on. Obviously, if Vuko is going to, when we hit the next turn, he's going to move off somewhere potentially. He could stay here, but if he should move, let's say he moves off here, then what this Vuko tile says is that he moves this neutral marker with him. So, you know, he can move the neutral influence around the board. But what I'm hoping to do by accumulating these M factors is get some of these units into play. Alright, and that should start winning me some control, because these units are just going to keep mounting up and mounting up. Obviously I've lost a couple of influence up here in Viper Gorge, but the way I'm going to win this game is to get my Ice Tracker out on the board. Alright, so I'm going to get these M factor tokens, I'm going to try and move them up here and then take an action making action to get them out on the board. The good thing about the Ice Tracker is they have a special ability that allows you to move influence from one region to another. That both have these Drakkar. But not only that, their special is this one here. This is the recruitment icon, and what this does is it allows me to pursue my winning condition, my victory condition. What I can do here is, if I've got an Ice Drakkar and I activate, I can take one of these tokens and move it to the Ice Garden up here. And once I've got 6, that's my victory condition. So let me show you that one more time. My aim is to use the making action. Take this part here, move the dead snow marker up. Obviously this is going to keep going up because I'm taking the making action. Let's say I have a bunch of these here because I've been collecting them through dominating these regions. Ideally these ones, because these give me an extra M factor token. So with that action then I can move up to 5, so I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. With my second making action I can take this path here. Dead snow goes up, rotation changes, but not in solitaire. And then I can spend 1 here or 2 here. Let's say I choose 2 here. That will allow me to put 2 of these level 2 units in our ice tracker. In regions where I have influence, using the special ability, I can put that in the ice garden. Yeah, I can move influence around. I can take the move action, move this unit over here. You know, move these influence over here if I wanted to with the special, and then again use the recruitment special during activation if I've got dominance. Okay, if I've got dominance, I can use that. Okay, there's some of these actions you can only use during dominance. But you know, you've got to build up to it. So ideally I'm getting these level 1s out, I'm doing some attacks, I'm beating down this NPC, and you've got to do that because otherwise they're going to be swarming all over the board and you can never get influence, you can never get dominance. I think I'm going to leave the demo here because I wanted to keep the video as short as possible, but wow, what a wonderful mix of mechanisms, and each different character is going to play very differently, and with these, you know, these NPCs coming on and behaving in different ways, it's going to offer you lots of different challenge. And with the random setups as well, you know, you're going to have lots of different game play experiences. So that's Lord of the Ice Garden. Look out for it on Kickstarter, where you'll have an opportunity to get hold of the second printing. That's it for now. See you next time.